Welcome back to Sleep Secrets. This is the bouncy part of the story. We're going to talk about the spring units. Now, what you need to bear in mind with every mattress that has springs in it, basically, you're looking at two basic components to give you a good night's sleep. The first part is what is providing you the support. In this case today, we're going to be talking about the springs, and what is giving you the comfort, which is going to be the next video in the series. Because you might have good support, but if it's too hard, you're not going to sleep well. If it's really cushy and really nice to sleep in, but you've got no support, then you're also not going to sleep very well. And so the question is, what do we need within the support structure to create the right kind of sleep for you? Now, while I was in China, the King Core company there is a huge company. They produced and designed a mattress, if you like, a test unit that when you laid on it, it looked at the alignment of the spine. Now, they did this all in conjunction with the International Chiropractors Association, and then looked at also the pressure points, which I've already talked about, and I'll just indicate here. So what they looked at is that, well, what happens if you increase and decrease the amount of support through the spring structure and the amount of comfort layer that you have? How can you get the best combination of those two things? Now, without having that device around to lie on and get the recommendation, you need to have some good information to figure that out. And if you ever went to your grandmother's, you probably slept on one of the worst beds in your life. And it used to be that mattresses, before we even had the spring units, would just be boards with some sort of soft covering on them. They then developed into these sort of mesh type units, which I've even seen on the market still, and to be honest, I have no idea why you'd buy one of those. They then went into a more coil type spring, sometimes with a sort of hourglass type shape, and they were called Bonnell springs. Then we went into the more basic kind of spring units, which are still definitely on the market and to some extent are okay. I'm going to talk about those. And then mostly now what people are recommending, of course, is the pocket spring. And the pocket spring is called the Marshall spring. Those names we don't need to worry about because we're going to talk primarily about the basic spring coil and the pocket spring. Now, what you're going to be hearing a lot from people is you want to get a hard mattress. Now, please don't think of that. You want to get a supportive mattress. And support is going to be varying depending on your, as I've mentioned in other videos, how tall and wide you are, how heavy you are, and the shape, how you're built. Because that's also going to be impacted by your sleep position, which I've already talked about. Because depending on what that is, you're going to need a different type of spring unit. A back sleeper can cope with a slightly more firmer mattress and may not need to have the 7-zone units that many of these mattresses come with. However, if you're a side sleeper, then you're definitely going to need them. In addition to just the firmness, you need to also bear in mind, is the bed right to the edges supported? Is there a good sidewall structure? Because if there isn't, then the outside 20 centimeters of your mattress is going to be unusable. So please always check to see what is there. That applies to all sorts of spring units. There are different ways in which it's done. With the pocket spring, often there's some sort of firm foam used to keep that sidewall strong. The other thing you need to bear in mind is if you have a partner, is your movement and your needs the same? And if one moves around, how much does that affect the other partner? Because obviously if that's not good, then you're not going to sleep well. For both the basic spring mattress type and the pocket spring, the concepts of firmness are going to be the same. The firmness is going to be dependent on, firstly, the tensile strength of the metal. Mostly it's steel, sometimes it's some kind of alloy or combination material. The diameter of the actual wire itself, the diameter of the coils, so how wide is the spring, and also how many coils are there per spring, so how many times does it go around. The other thing that's affected is springs work that the more you compress them, the more they tend to be harder. So some pocket spring mattresses and other mattresses are pre-tensed. So they're not in their relaxed state, they're somewhat compressed so that they're already firmer. So this is how you get from two identical type of springs, one compressed and one not, different degrees of firmness. But there are other ways to do this. Now I'm going to show this in a simple table. When you're looking at the firmness of a mattress, a firmer mattress is going to be delivered by a wire that is a large diameter, tighter coils, so the diameter of the coils are smaller, fewer rotations, and of course perhaps a higher tensile strength. That means that a softer mattress is going to be the opposite. So thinner wire, broader coils, more rotations within the spring, and a lower tensile metal. That's the information you need to know. The thing is, every company is going to have some different combination of those. If you're looking at one of the more basic type mattresses, that means not a pocket spring, what you need to pay attention to is those factors, but also how are the springs connected to each other. Because you'll see in this photo here, if that connection is taking you from top to toe, then it's not so much of a problem because your movement will affect your body. If those happen to run across the mattress, then your movement is going to be translated through that connection wire to your sleeping partner. So you want to avoid buying a mattress that runs crossways with the way in which they're attached. When you look at the pocket spring mattresses, the idea here is that each of these individual coils or springs are individual. They're held together within these fabric pockets and they are then tagged together. So the springs themselves are independent, which means that the movement of one spring is barely going to affect the spring directly next to it, let alone the person in the bed with you. So the cool thing about these pocket springs is it's given us a huge more potential to give a bed that's more responsive to your sleeping position. It's given us the ability to have a far more quieter and relaxed sleep and not being irritated by your sleep partner, but it's also increased the cost. But you've got to remember there are beds on the market that are incredibly expensive and I haven't quite figured out why that's so. Sometimes I think it's just the price, and it's hard to talk about price in this video because I don't know where you're watching this, and having lived in New Zealand, Australia and now Germany, each market has its own peculiarities and different price points. However, you want to keep in mind that it costs some money to put a bed together, so if it's a super cheap mattress and they say it's amazing, I would ask questions as to how they managed to claim that. So that's all you really need to know about the spring units. You could learn a lot more physics and how that all works. However, at least when you go shopping now, you can look at some of these sample cutouts of the mattresses that they have. Ask questions about, hey, what is the steel? How does it compare to other brands or other products they have in their store? And looking at the dimension of those springs and all those other issues I talked about today. I hope you find that super interesting, and the next video we're going to sort of round out this whole mattress component by talking about the different other products that are used in conjunction with the springs and the foams, which we talked about in the last video. Hope you look forward to it, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.